Yo, what's up? This is Jack from Brooklyn, Jackie Summers talking to y'all from Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, New York. It's still COVID out there, so my ass is home. But it is Global Bar Week for Bar Convent, and we are having a tough conversation today with some legit superstars in the industry. Black Lives Matter hit its stride after the death of George Floyd in May. And we saw lots of people come together in solidarity, and we appreciate that. But we want to know how this is supposed to affect our industry. Like you said that you care, and you said you stand in solidarity with us, but what should that look like and how should it manifest? If Black lives really matter to you, how should it affect us? We're going to talk about this from three different angles, but right now we're going to talk about ownership. So let's move around this panel and introduce yourselves. AJ, tell the folks who you are, what you do, why you're dope.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it. My name is Andra AJ Johnson. Currently, I am a managing partner and beverage director of Serenata and Zumo. I'm also co-founder of DMV Black Restaurant Week, which we are going to be doing our third restaurant week coming in November. I'm also the founder of Back to Black Cocktail Pop-Up, where we find and seek young Black bar talent and culinary talent and give them a platform to give back in a way to organizations that generally go overlooked when it comes from the charitable aspect, because they are on the front lines and we are not. Right. So I am very, very happy to be here. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate you, man.
Absolute pleasure. Mr. Sparks, tell them who you are, where you're from, what you do, why you're dope.
My name is Aaron Sparks. I'm from Akron, Ohio. I have Mixology 21 mobile bartending service, which is a mobile bartending service that works throughout the state of Ohio and, of course, throughout the rest of the country. I'm also the founder of the Urban Bambiance, which is also a group of people of color in which we showcase culinary and cocktail skills, just giving those a platform who normally would not be able to showcase their skill set. The reason I'm dope is because I get a chance to hang out with people such as Jackie here and the rest of our colleagues. So, I love anytime I can get a chance to speak and, of course, learn from everybody else.
Love to you, brother. LP Lauren Paylor, tell the folks who you are, where you're from, what you do, why you're dope.
Hello, everyone. My name is LP. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I am bartender gone graphic designer, social media manager, and I guess most recently co-founder of Focus on Health. So we're a health and wellness company that advocates for the overall wellness of food and beverage individuals. And, come March, we just saw that it was really necessary to have difficult and pressing conversations. We think of wellness and we usually resort to considering only the physical aspect, but we acknowledge that conversation, dialogue, writing, community, talking about your home life, your finances, how physical fitness is incorporated into that, nutrition, all of the things. But just having difficult conversations about pressing topics and creating a platform and a safe space for people, or inviting people to join that dialogue.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you. Mr. Swain, Torrence, tell the folks who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why you dope.
Okay, Torrence Swain. I am East Coast Director of Sales for Silencio Mezcal. I'm also an equity owner in the brand. I've been with the brand since 2014. I spent 10 years bartending full-time in DC. Different disciplines of that part, from just high volume all the way up to craft cocktails. Why am I dope? I'm dope because I get to grow people in this business and I get to advocate for inclusion and I get to operate in that. I think that's the most rewarding part of having influence. I know, like growing up in the game, I should say, I used to see people like Colin. I mean, I've known Colin Apia of Bacardi for probably about 9 years. And the first time I met him, I decided that that's who I wanted to be.
Yes.
I wanted to be someone who folks could look to, who would advocate, influence, and open doors if and when I could. So that's something that I'm able to do through, and I'm very adamant about fortifying the efforts of people in the community.
I'll be the first person to say Colin Appia, he's one of the few people. Colin says to me, Jack, show up. I don't ask questions. Where do I need to be and when? When Colin says show up, you show up. And if we're gonna be real, I got a text from Colin last month. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and all the text said was, do you have something for me? And I felt like I offended the Godfather. There was no context. It was like, am I gonna live through this?
Yeah.
It was all good, but like, yo, mad respect for Colin. He's one of the reasons I'm here too. The conversation we want to have today is about Black ownership in respect to an international Black Lives Matter movement and how it should affect our industry. So let's just take a minute and talk about what Black ownership has looked like up to now, whether that's behind a bar, whether that's behind a brand, whether that's doing an entrepreneurial endeavor. What's it look? What has it looked like up to now?
Non-existent. I mean, if I have to really sort of say it, I mean that is something that has sparked a lot of my programming, is not being able to see people that were represented in things that I was doing. And for me, sort of trying to culminate, the lack of the representation through my White Plates, Black Faces project has been trying emotionally, and just sort of being able to get people why we can't get there. And it's not for lack of trying.
Right.
It's an absolute very high barrier of entry, but also there's a respectability that is not placed with what we do. There is a lack of trust in the ability of Black hospitality professionals, even though we are the ones that created hospitality.
Which is totally unfounded.
Yep, totally unfounded.
Completely agree with that.
For sure. If you look at like, it just got republished today, but this is a few months old, the $100 million initiative that's been set aside by Constellation Brands to invest in African-American owned spirit and wine companies. We didn't see that. We haven't seen that in the white realm of spirits because it's always been there. There was never an announcement, oh, we're going to give $100 million to white-owned companies, because that's all they've been doing anyway, right? So, like, to add to AJ's point, like the barrier of entry and the access hasn't been there for the capital. Like, for instance, we talk about Sorrel. Let's be real specific and talk about Sorrel Liqueur, the brand that you started years ago. Had you had access to something like this Constellation program and things, who you probably wouldn't be on a Zoom call right now. You would be off doing something else, more than likely. Just
to contextualize this, when I launched Sorrel in 2012, I was the only Black person in America with a license to make liquor. And if I had gone to banks or investors and said, hey, I'm a Black guy with no with no money, with no background in hospitality, with no background as a food chemist, and I want to take a drink that's been in the Caribbean for 400 years that nobody but Caribbean people have ever even heard of, and make it into a saleable beverage, what do you think would have been the response?
Here's the door.
Yeah.
We told you to leave.
It's interesting. I think of DC and when I was first starting out, and there were a couple of factors that played. I think that I portray a different type of Black person, and that provided me with an entry to those barriers. And I think that in and of itself is awful. I think I speak a specific way. I think I looked a little different at the time. My hair was straight. It was not natural at all. And I think that was a lot of my upbringing. And like, my parents' way of protecting me.
Yes.
But translating that into DC, which is Chocolate City, and that's ridiculous, I can think of all the Black bartenders in DC, and 2 of them are in this call. You know, like it's unfortunate there are so many, but when you have to think about it, you can't. I don't know why that's the case. You see the same ones in the news articles. You see the same ones who are being featured on platforms. And so, like, what I'm trying to do, and I know AJ's doing a great job of this as well, and I learned a lot of this from AJ when I was starting out, like, I'm paying it forward. So I don't need it. And not every good opportunity is my good opportunity or a great opportunity. So I want to, you know, the PJs, the Princess Johnsons that live in DC who nobody knows who they are, I'm giving them that opportunity to work with Perrier. I'm giving them that opportunity to work with Bombay because they would never have it otherwise. And they're great people, you know? So I think that, I know a lot of this work is really on us, but I'm trying to do the best I can to ensure that I am giving everyone the opportunity that I was given. And it sucks that we have to think that way. But if we're not going to look out for them, who else is? And I just wish more people thought that way.
I can agree with that, LB. It looks almost like you almost have to code, like you said, code switch to a way. And if you have a particular vernacular, or if you look a certain way, or let's be honest, if you are a certain type of Black person, it's far easier for you to move and shake in circles or go to networking events where you're the only Black person there. But if you have the best vocabulary, you walk, talk, act a particular way, they're going to be way more invited. That's going to open more doors for you. Not to say that you're less of any Black person or any other color, but you just happen to speak differently. You happen to carry yourself in a different way. So they're going to look at you completely different. We all have the same hue, but we don't sound the same. So they're going to be more apt to, unfortunately, look at you and say, oh, this is a good one. And
oh yeah, for sure. Like I came straight out of go-go clubs bartending, and I had to completely camouflage myself.
absolutely.
Honestly, I made myself as digestible as possible. Because
You a 6+ Black man. How do you camouflage yourself?
It's hard, man.
You just have
It's
to
hard.
like, you have to diffuse. Like the thing is, the fear of Black men is real, right? So we know this, right? That's like what we grow is in our genetics, right? That trauma is in our genetics. The thing is like I just had to make myself as digestible as possible on the outside, even though I maintain my credo, my core beliefs inside, which is why, you know, the advocacy is always at the forefront. I just don't. I might not. I'll trick you into thinking that I'm not an advocate though. But when it's all said and done, and you look around and there's a bunch of brown faces behind the bar, you like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jack.
Go ahead, AJ.
Oh, no, I was just going to sort of ask, because I think this is a very interesting path we've taken down in terms of the path to ownership and why there's not a whole lot of us. And again, when we talk about financial barriers, obviously that is one. We can get into generational wealth and systemic racism in a sec. But I think as it pertains to all of us, the way that we've had to mellow ourselves or code switch and things like that, I think I relate very much so to Lauren's point about being a different kind of Black person. I went to private school most of my life. I was the social butterfly. I hang out with the Black people on this day and the white people on this day, and I was extremely socially accepted through all of the things. And so I knew how to talk to different kind of people no matter what, which then gave me access to things that people my age, people that look like me, people that had the tattoos and all that didn't have access to. 100%. And that put me on a different path. It put me on an ownership path. It put me on a management path. It put me on a beverage director path because a white person decided that they could trust me.
Right.
Not someone who had been there longer and that I learned from and that all these things, you know what I mean? They felt that they could trust me. Not that my hard work did not speak for itself because I worked my ass off, but they could trust me more than they could trust somebody else because they knew that I could handle the situation. If a white person had an issue with a plate or a dish or a this or a that, it wasn't And again, Torrence, I feel you. I'm not a 6 foot plus black dude walking up to a table and be like,
But
"Do you have a problem with your
dreads
food?"
though.
You know what I mean? But I have the
though.
dreads, right?
Yeah.
And so in certain situations, I was not palatable. But for most situations, I could get around it because you know what? A black, queer, decent looking woman
Fine.
is the novelty in that.
Very
I said
beautiful.
fine. You fine as hell.
Beautiful.
Fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. But we're a novelty at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's past token. It's like, oh my God, look what I got. You're a fucking unicorn.
I want to say that we need to, at this point, give props to the ancestors because they didn't have a choice. We were raised by people who grew up in a world where the wrong word, the wrong look, the wrong posture could get them killed.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
And like I was raised with those tools too. And it has taken me it's taken me my whole life. I'm in my 50s now to unlearn that I do not have to cut myself into tiny little pieces that other people can digest. They can choke. You can choke on me. I'm coming in whole. Period. End of story. Like, we live in a world where we have had to be less to make other people feel comfortable because they could not manage our wholeness. And at this point in my life, my point is, your discomfort is your issue.
100%.
We're moving beyond this. And the other point that LP brought up, and I really want to get to this, in terms of touching it too, that whole bit about there only being space for one. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
In regards to what, Jack?
Pictures on a magazine cover.
Oh, yeah.
People in the restaurant.
One.
And yeah.
Normalize more than one black people being in the picture.
One.
It's an interesting concept because, again, there are a lot of black people, black identifying individuals in DC, and for a very long time, and I'd say even still now, and this is no one's fault, the same ones are circulated in magazines and national features, and and so who hey, you're gonna go to DC, yeah, go see this person. I'm like, wait, what about like the 15 other people? So it's an interesting concept, but when we go back to this idea of diversity, inclusion, and equity, because those are like the hot words of 2020 that everyone wants to throw around, I think it's really important, and it's also very pertinent that we understand, one, what those words mean, but also that they don't look the same in every establishment,
right?
Or in every space. It's so specific and unique. So for the magazine that wants to feature that one person, cool, like awesome. But relating that to like present day with me, I've definitely said no to opportunities because I've expressed like, listen, I really appreciate this. No, not even. Let's backtrack. Listen, this is what's wrong with what you're doing. Let me help you. I'm willing to help you. And, let's go from there. But their willingness and their lack of interest in really integrating diversity, inclusion, equity into their establishments or into their platform is the halt. Because back to AJ's point, this person's safe. I know this person won't say anything. I know this person representing themselves in a way where it won't embarrass me.
Right.
And that is what's wrong with these D&I initiatives everywhere that are like booming. We're saying we're going to do the work, but we're not doing it.
Sorry.
To be clear, safeness is perceived as your proximity to whiteness. The more accurately you can replicate or present a facsimile of whiteness, the more readily you are perceived. So it's the color of your skin, it's how you wear your hair, it's your ability to
brown paper bag,
it's your dress, it's how you see your face. All of it.
No,
go ahead.
Absolutely.
No. Go ahead, Aaron.
It's a cookie cutter mentality. They literally, like you say, you want that one person because at the end of the day, whether it be male, female, or anyone else, they all fit the exact same mold. So they're looking for cookie cutter templates for everybody for their inclusion programs because, like you said, they're safe. They look good. They sound good. We can get away with putting them on the forefront because, like you said, they're not going to embarrass us, or they're going to say something that's going to be just right so we can all look good because they look different, but in the end, they sound like us.
100%.
I think if we hold these organizations accountable for measurable actions, like for me, any kind of like bad incident, and when it as it relates to your public facing as a company, should be met with accountability and then measurable actions and correcting and measurable action. Like the thing is, if you had 0 Black people involved today, and you plan to have 5 involved by month 6 of next year, then I can see it. That's something that I can look at and I can see it. And of course, it goes a lot deeper than that because the actual programming, the standard operating procedures, and all that stuff has to be centered around real, actual change, and not just band-aids by just putting LP in the picture because she's not going for that, So I mean, if a company is not, if they're not talking like that, then I don't want to really hear it.
So let's take a minute and move into the media part of the discussion. Let's talk about why it is in everyone's best interests that they have Black ownership. Like, how does it benefit the art industry?
That the media has Black ownership. I'm sorry. In what context is the ownership? That there are Black owners in the business?
Black owners, Black brand owners, Black entrepreneurs that are industry related, Black media people. How does it benefit our industry as a whole? Because and this is, I think, what we're talking about. There's no one way to be Black. You could be Black all sorts of different ways, but at the end of the day, we've got contributions to make. And if we're going to be very honest about it, all of this culture is built on our work.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes.
100%.
So why does it benefit our industry to have people that look like the folks on this call own their own businesses?
Well, it gives the industry as a whole integrity in actually saying that it's inclusive, right? But the thing is like, it's not enough to just have the owners. People in like, I'll just make it relevant to myself. If I, as a brand, a decision maker in a brand, if I'm not devoting marketing dollars, if I'm not devoting resources, and if I'm not creating opportunities for people of color within my own day-to-day operation, then I'm failing the community. And when you have more owners that look like us, you can have more people that are actually in a position to make influential decisions. And also you have more opportunities and more people to be invested in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the restaurant industry itself, the hospitality industry itself is built on individuality, right? They are banking on like media, the media specifically, right? They bank on the fact that we'll be okay with what you give us because we are going to be attached to something.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Without actually looking at the other side of it, which is our reasoning for wanting to put our stuff out there, is because there was nobody that looked like us when we were doing this, right? And so when it comes to like the importance of Black ownership, this industry is so like full of nepotism and narcissism that it's disgusting. And like literally somebody can be famous and put out mediocre shit just because they work for somebody who somebody followed because they're famous. And that is not okay. None of that is okay, but these people have been able to feed their families. They've been able to open, keep restaurants open for generations and generations and generations and pass it down because somebody decided that they were important enough to talk about.
And like, are we tired of mediocrity?
Well, 100%. 100%.
For real.
But nobody should be, but there are they're unrealistic levels of what, you know, the industry is in and of itself. It's feeding people because you enjoy feeding people.
Right.
It's telling the stories of people who have done this before us. It is and has been a way for Black bartenders to buy their freedom and buy the freedom of their wives and their children.
Literally.
This is an actual thing. So no, I mean, it is important for us in a very different way, I think is sort of where I'm, yeah.
LP, I saw you had your hand up. What were you about to say, love?
No, that was just gesturing. I was like, yeah, right on.
I just to add to the ownership dynamic, and definitely we definitely need these major companies. We need all the companies to stop having non-Black people create programming for Black people. That goes for marketing. That goes for every goddamn thing, for real. Like you're gonna give me somebody that has no historical and cultural context, because you already know 99% of the time that the person that's creating this program is not from our community. They do not have the context to do some real work in that regard, right? So like we definitely need more, like, for instance, I can use South Side of Chicago, I can use Southeast DC, like where brand people do not, brand dollars and marketing dollars do not go into Southeast DC. And I'm talking about the outer reaches of Southeast. I'm not talking about Navy Yard and Capitol Hill. I'm talking about on the east side of the river. There are no resources devoted to that community. But how much revenue is being generated out of those areas of the country? South Side Chicago, certain parts of Brooklyn, you know, you name it, where there are higher concentrations of people of color, the brands are not investing. And no one's holding them accountable. Nobody's pointing this out outside of like people like Ariel Neal, you know, who is a big advocate for brand dollars making it to the South Side of Chicago. And not only just brand dollars, but brand resources as well. You know, that is a change that we need to demand.
This is the part where I quote two friends of ours. I'm going to quote Samara Davis, and I'm going to quote Tracy Franklin. Samara will tell everybody that Black people spend $3.5 billion on liquor. Billion with a B. And to back that up, despite that fact, Tracy Franklin will tell us, liquor treats us like a side piece.
Well,
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
For sure.
Nah.
Because they don't want to see us in the advertising, no. Because they still have to market to people who, and okay, corporate business is a son of a bitch, but the income disparity you can't necessarily look past, right? DC actually, and I hate to make, it's like center this around, it's just we have 3 DC people here. Washington DC has the highest disparity of income between whites and Blacks in the entire country, right? So if you're gonna bank your money on people who have the expendable income to buy your brand, I can understand that. But when you actually get your numbers back, that's where I don't understand. That's where I lose the connection.
But AJ, I agree with you. But if I could just point out, where is the wealth of the cognac money being spent, and where is that coming from? Like,
oh, well, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's from the Black community. That's 100%.
Right, absolutely. And like,
That's
so
100%.
why isn't Remy Cointreau? Why isn't Moet Hennessy? Why aren't these bigger brands in the communities reinvesting in those communities that they make so much money from?
They don't really care. They just want you to care. Cavassier. That's really it. They, at the end of the day, they don't really have an interest in the community past the register. Once we have gotten your dollar, once we have gotten you once we've gotten you hooked, that's all I care about. I just need to make sure that you going back every weekend, even though we know you may not be making the most money, even though we know you probably don't have the income to even spend as disposable on this. I got you. You love Hennessy. You've been passing the Cavassier since Busta Rhymes told you to. At the end of the day, all they really care about is making sure they get our money to further fill their pockets.
And we are not holding them accountable for doing so.
And,
We're not.
No.
just to back up Aaron's point, Busta Rhymes said Pastor Cavassier because his uncle or his father or grandfather or someone in his family fought in World War II and went
I was
overseas.
just gonna
And
say
brought
that.
it back.
It brought
And
it
that
in,
is
yep.
I'm gonna lose
that is the
this.
reason why.
Go ahead. Say
Absolutely.
it, LP.
I was
Mhm.
just gonna say the Black community, the reason why they are so
Beholden.
accustomed to drinking cognac is really because during the war, that's what they brought back home. And when they were in their homes and they shared this with their community, and it became very much popularized, which is actually a part of history I didn't know. And this is a part of the reason why I work for myself. The reason I work for myself is because we don't have, not every brand, I don't like to speak in absolutes, but many brands do not take the time to invest in this history and these stories. There is a brand, Hardy Cognac, that I love dearly, Benedict Hardy, white woman, amazing person. We sat down for 2 hours and had a whole conference about the African American community and their influence to cognac. And that's a conversation I would have never thought I was having with an older white woman who lives in France. You get what I'm saying? So like, I will work with brands who will work with me. I ended up learning more stuff from her than I think she learned from me. But this is what I'm saying. Like, this can exist in your establishments. This can exist within your companies. And it's really important. I don't think that I knew what my voice was or my place in this conversation was until the beginning of quarantine, when I really had a moment to sit with myself and say, like, who do I look up to? What is it that they're doing that I really appreciate and love? And what is my place? Like, because I sat down, my boyfriend's white, and I was like, listen, babe, like, it's really hard for me right now to sit down and be silent when all this shit is going on around, like, happening around me with people who look just like me. And he's like, well, what's holding you back? And I was like, I'm scared that people will judge me. He's like, well, fuck them. Who cares? Like, who cares? And he's right. Who cares? Who cares? I have not gotten many job opportunities over the last 8 months because I've been very vocal, and I'm okay with that. Like, that's actually, for something like that, again, not every great opportunity is your great opportunity. That proved to be so true during this time, because it was like, man, I really want to work with that brand. They don't want to work with me. Okay, cool. No sweat off my back, you know? And I think as long as you're living authentically and you are aligned with what your morals and values are, like, good riddance to all those other people, truly.
Yeah.
So we're about at the halfway point. I want to have two very specific conversations based on what LP just said. Things changed. In the last 6 months, the world changed. It's not like we haven't been saying Black Lives Matter for our whole lives, and our parents for their whole lives, and our parents' parents for their whole lives. But for some reason, the death of George Floyd made everyone figure it was time to take a stand. Two questions. For the people who actually stood in solidarity and said Black Lives Matter, how do they show us? And number two, after we're done with that, for the people who did not take a stand, what do we do? How do we get their attention so they can stand with us too?
I think a lot of people took a stand. I mean, it's a big one. Damn, Jackie, damn, man.
No, I told you to bring a drink for this. We're not here to play.
Where's my drink?
Right.
No, that's fair. That's totally fair. I mean, I think for the most part, around the country, people had nowhere to go. The kids got affected by this because they had to sit home and they watched this. And it was everywhere. They had nowhere to go. People were bored. I legitimately had a couple of white girls walk into my bar and were like, are you guys the only Black employees that work here? And I was like, well, no. I'm a part owner of the bar, and, you know, I think I had D with me, and I'm like, yo, okay. And they just like straight up like handed me $200 and was like, here you go. I live out in bumfuck Maryland, and they're not really like, we can't really get out of our homes, and they're not really down like the Black Lives Matter thing, but like we wanted to just like raise money. So like, we're not going to college this year, and so we figured this would be a good idea to do this. Interesting. Very interesting. Does it help in any way? I'm not really sure, but the fact of the matter is that people were bored. That's why people cared. And that's what then affect you, right? Because then
No, at no other time could you get that much attention.
Nope.
On something.
No.
Because black people have been
No.
dying by the police for a long time.
For a very long time.
On
And then it was
TV.
what Ahmaud Arbery's video came out. Then the whole thing, then Breonna Taylor's thing that happened way before that, it took off. And so it was like,
everyone got a drink?
Yeah.
no, mine is over there at the bar. Mine is empty now. I don't know.
Arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor.
Arrest them.
Arrest them.
No,
For the
first,
right reason.
first
Arrest
indict
them.
the Attorney General of Kentucky, then arrest. Or you know what?
Oh, he gotta go.
Whatever order you want.
He gotta go.
Order. You pick what step goes first.
Yeah.
To get back to where we were. It's true. Like, COVID made everybody pause involuntarily, and then we watched very publicly George Floyd's murder, and for whatever reason, everyone suddenly agreed racism is real. Fine. In our industry, for the folks who actually said Black Lives Matter, how are we holding them accountable? What is it? What do we want to see?
So Jack, this is the conversation I've been having over the last 2 weeks. You can put Black Lives Matter up on your window, and I don't know whether or not you put it up there because you don't want nobody to kick the window in or whatever. But Black Lives Matter, and I tell people, like, I generally hope that you know that Black Lives Matter is not just merely my survival, me being able to breathe in and out. Black Lives Matter covers every dimension of my existence, my career aspirations, my spirituality, my mental health, my physical health, like my economic health, period. Like, it's not just whether or not I can walk out of here and not get killed. Like, that's just like brushing my teeth. I should be able to walk out and not die.
Or sleep in your bed and not die.
I mean, how many of you put your license and registration up here so that you don't have to reach? Like, no, by the time that's a real thing.
By the time the police get to me, my hand is hanging out the window with everything that they need. They can get it directly out of my hand.
Yep.
I know they're not gonna not ask me for my ID and my registration. It's right here. Here it is, officer. Yeah, no problem. Like, I'm not reaching for nothing with a police.
That's an all too common. That's an all too common problem. I'm a CCW holder, so if and when that does happen, because I got pulled over a few weeks ago. I had a broken tail light. It was an honest pullover, but by the time the officer got to my window, both of my hands were outside on my window, showcasing, just so I can let them know, officer, there is a weapon in the vehicle. But my hands are already outside, so there's no reaching. My driver's license is at my fingertips near the door. So I completely agree with you, Torrence. It covers our entire existence every day, because, like you, I'm a 6 foot black man, 285. I am, what my mother says, naturally intimidated. So it's something that we consistently have to deal with on a daily basis of it being scary, even though you're the nicest guy in the world. And we have to start holding people accountable, because putting that sign up in your window is not a get out of jail free card. Yeah. Putting that sign up in your window doesn't make it okay.
Your Instagram square for one day?
Yeah, don't mean nothing.
I don't care nothing about that. That was a waste of time, space, and energy. If your company is not currently looking to hire, like, because I don't want you to just patronize us by hiring just anybody you can find, but hiring qualified Black people, right? Because if you hire an unqualified Black person, that's not helping the issue at all.
Yeah. That's giving them more of an excuse. That's all they
Absolutely. Like,
well, I tried to do this, but they couldn't do the job, or so. Why would I waste my time going any further?
Is there someone on your staff that is constantly looking for opportunities to fortify the efforts of Black people in the communities that you sell your stuff in, like that you sell your wares in? Are you involved? That is very much important.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is calling them out. You have to call people out. It's the owners that sit there and say, like, put up the black square, but then also sit back and say when things come out about their businesses, and they go, oh, well, that's not who I am. No, honey, this is exactly who you are. This is your business.
Yep.
This is exactly what you bred. This is exactly what you have portrayed. This is exactly you telling Black people that you don't want them here by doing really, really dumb stuff, by like glorifying slave owners and stuff like that in your restaurant.
Absolutely.
This
They're working on that though,
okay.
AJ. They're working on it because I'm on their council, and I am holding that ownership group responsible and accountable, like on almost on a day-to-day basis. Like they are taking accountability. But you have a very valid point, and you can stay in that seat of judgment until they fix it all. So I'm not trying to get them off the hook. I'm not trying to get them off the hook, AJ. But they're working on it. I promise you they are. And it's too many black people made them famous. Right?
Okay.
How many?
We're talking about two different places then.
Oh no, I'm talking about the farm.
I know what you're talking about. I'm talking about something different. Lauren knows what I'm talking about. Lauren knows what I'm talking about because we got it's a lot of stuff. DC is crazy.
It's a fruit of them.
It's crazy. And I'm gonna tell you right now, nobody wants to be in a place enjoying their meal,
looking around, wondering where they are.
Oh, excellent. Eating off a table that is representative of the floors of Monticello. Nobody wants to eat dinner there.
No, they don't.
But apparently it's a James Bitterrow winning place and Michelin star place, and this time a third.
Don't even get into JV now. You trying to open up
we
need like 5 hours.
I don't want to hear people being or feeling sorry for us. This is a very bad thing. What I want them to do is look at somebody like me, who you've accepted, who's in your world, who you, oh my goodness, like, and you give me like free stuff when I sit down in your place. Do that for somebody else. When I take my fees for things, the very first thing that I tell anybody, whether it be a magazine, whether it be a photo shoot, whatever I'm doing, okay, that's great. Can you please section off my fee is this, because you're gonna section off X, Y, Z to figure out who you're gonna donate that to in this community that can actually like use this money. Because I'm not going out and drinking and this, that, and the third. I'll take my cut. But all that's gonna happen is that I'm gonna give it to somebody else. So you figure out who you need to give this to. Be a human being, be decent.
Do the work.
Be decent and do the work for yourself. Yes.
So it sounds like we're talking about two specific things. It sounds like we're talking about, number one, making sure that you're hiring Black talent, and number two, making sure you're investing in Black businesses. To pop up on what Aaron said, a lot of times what we hear people say is, oh, we didn't know we couldn't find any Black people to hire. They were like the CEO of Forbes recently said that the talent pool for Black people just is not that big. How do we address this, and why does not hiring Black people in the back of the house count for diversity and inclusion?
I can talk to this. I actually wrote something a while back that talked about how when I was first applying to work in the food and beverage industry, I used my full name because that's just what I did. That's how I addressed myself. So my name is Lauren Shadesha Paylor, and nobody called me back. Nobody at all. And I was like, what's going on? This is weird. I'm qualified. I have a nursing degree. What is happening? And then I was like, you know what? Let me try something. Took Shadesha out, applied. Everyone called me back. Everyone. So first and foremost, do not discriminate against someone because of their name. I understand. I get it. That does not portray who they are as a person. That does not portray their qualifications. That does not portray anything about them. Their experiences, what they look like. I could have been white for all you know. You know what I mean? Like, so sincerely understand that if you are truly looking at a person for who they are, diversity will naturally come. It will naturally come. You will create a safe space. The inclusion will naturally exist. And then providing them with the same opportunities and the same the same space that you would anyone else, equity right there. So I really, and I hate to sit here and say it like that, but it's like, if we just treated people as people first, we wouldn't have this issue. Because the same way we celebrate Women's History Month every year is the same way we should be celebrating Black History Month every year. The same way we celebrate all of the accomplishments for the individuals who are doing XYZ, we should be celebrating XYZ. It's just there needs to be reciprocity. There needs to be basic human decency, and we just need to be, you know, good people. Like, that's all it is, truly, because at the end of the day, look back 6 years ago, if I wasn't given an opportunity, I would not be here right now. Not at all. And it only takes one opportunity.
That's very true.
I hear you.
There's that lack of, like, I'm here to get a job so that I can better myself and take myself away from whatever it is that I have been doing. And this whole pull yourself up from the bootstraps mentality that America is so in love with for whatever reason, when you've oppressed people for as long as we have been oppressed.
They tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but they stole your boots.
Exactly. Whereas, like, me trying to get this job is extremely, extremely important. It's very important because it puts me in a better spot, you know. And it's not just names; it's addresses too. I've seen it. If you don't live, if you, and they're like, oh,
yeah, you live in Southeast DC. Nope, it's okay. I don't need that in my life.
Yep.
But again, like, that's not fair. We don't know their background. We don't know what life they live, and it's just no way to treat people or to judge people. Not when there's way too much talent out there, way too much potential out there. And kind of piggybacking what we were saying, just because someone doesn't have, listen, I straightened my hair for years. AJ knows, because she knew me when I was straightening my hair. And a lot of the reason why I wear it naturally now is because AJ was that role model for me. You know, she wasn't afraid to say what she meant, and she killed people with persuasion. She was nice, but she stood her ground, and she was very true to who she was and is still currently.
And like, when I met AJ, she was all the way uptown bartending, like Chevy Chase.
Oh yeah, because my restaurant was up there.
That's how I met you. I applied there, remember?
Yeah.
So that's how we met. And, like, you know, I think that when we're really trying to figure out what the issue at hand is, it's truly that we treat people differently. But what is the reason for that? So these inherent biases that exist, these you know, these little notions that we have, we don't even realize that we're doing, you know, whether it's crossing the street because somebody's behind us, or, you know, assuming that this black guy is hitting on me when he's just asking you a question. You know, it's little stuff like that. It's like, let's just treat people like people. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, white ownership is a very, very funny thing, because in this industry specifically, as it pertains to us, because it was there's a lot of things that go unsaid, but then obviously being in upper management, and then as well being an owner of that place in upper Northwest, you're privy to a lot of conversations that you probably shouldn't be having. For instance, we need to hire more females in here. We need more girls, because like, my guy friends want to come and, like, hang out. Then, like, the owner became gay, and it was like, oh, okay, it's okay if I hire, like, legitimately my friend, who I don't care. You can dress however you want to, really, as long as you're dressed appropriately and, like, nicely. Was a drag queen and would dress in drag behind the bar, and that was fine. But hiring more Black people was not necessarily the way to go. A lot of it has to do with the vision that people see for the spaces that they want to be in, which is why proprietorship is bullshit. If you don't know how to run your business, and you couldn't be there every day to see who comes in, to see who goes out, to whatever, then you shouldn't. You can't just make up a fairy tale like place for you to go and hang out. And that's part of what happened, is that people were able to say, well, I want this and this and this and this, and my vision of what this needs to be needs to include this set of people.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like any relationship you have. You know, when we were younger, we're like, I'm going to marry someone that looks like this and does this and has this job, and we're going to have this many kids. That's not how life works.
Yeah.
Not at all. You know?
We got 10 minutes left. Let's talk about accountability. For the places who stood in solidarity, and for the places who did not, how do we hold them accountable? And how do we move forward in this? What do we want to see happen? How do we actually, because I'm the person, call me cynical, I'm not gonna rely on anyone's altruism. it hasn't actually really changed things thus far. And in a general sense, in this country, you can't count on the goodness of humanity. How do we hold people accountable? What do we do?
You know, I think for me, my bandwidth at the beginning, I was like every day, and I couldn't sleep. So I was just like, go, go, go. So I was having conversations with loved ones. I was, you know, looking at the opportunities coming my way and just having real and raw conversations like, hey, like, I see what you're doing on your social media page. You're highlighting a lot of Black people. You're not compensating them. You're asking them to invest like emotionally into something that is just, it's invasive, you know, and you're not paying them, but then you're paying XYZ. So take
We
that
need
into
to be
consideration.
paid for our emotional labor.
Yeah, and it's most importantly, it's like, just be consistent. So, okay, let's say you don't have the funding and you can't do it. Great. But then don't pay this person who's not Black to do the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It isn't aligned. It just doesn't look right. Additionally, it was like, for me, it was like making space for other ways. Once I did lose that bandwidth and it did die down a little bit, making space for other ways that I can ensure that I'm doing my part. So I acknowledge fully this, it's not my job to teach all these individuals and these people, but at the same time, kind of talking about what we were saying before, what can I do to ensure that I'm creating a space where, sorry, my dog's crying, a space where, you know, people feel safe, people feel heard, people feel seen. I have had the great pleasure of working with many brands. So one, like, hey, meet these people, but also being a mentor to individuals and helping them break out of their shell. There have been all these virtual cocktail competitions, and I'm like, hey, you should apply to this, get your name out there. Or, you know, if you don't feel so subjected to posting cocktail pictures just because you're a bartender, you know, use your platform in a way that really aligns with your voice. So yeah, that's, I mean, at this point, it's just be real, get involved. And it is hard when it doesn't involve you, but understand that if you are trying to do the work and you do want to actually implement a change, taking the time to feel uncomfortable and to lean into it is really vital and important.
Thank you, LP. Thank you.
Aaron, did you want to go?
Personally, I think the best way to hold them all accountable, my dad used to tell me the greatest enemy to a shadow is the light, is to literally call and bring them forward into the light. America is a corporation. I'm a firm believer in holding you accountable exactly where it's going to hurt you the most. And that's your pocket. Those brands, those places, those individuals, and showcasing them that this is not a fad. We are not a passing thing. You know, this isn't just going to go away just because, you know, you paint Black Lives Matter on the road. We have one or two protests and you may seem to pacify people. I'm a firm believer in that each and every opportunity that I get to either spend my funds, my time, or put one of my own bartenders or employees in another position to better themselves with some people who look like me and take them away from you, that's exactly what I want to do. If I'm going to go to your restaurant, I'm going to put my card in that person's hand and say, hey, my man has got opening his restaurant down here, whether it's a soul food restaurant, jerk chicken restaurant, whatever we gonna do, come on down here so we know we ain't gotta sit here with them. And that's my particular outlook on holding you accountable. Because at that point in time, you may not want to listen, but you have absolutely no choice but to listen to them.
Yep. And Jackie, you had it right? As soon as he was like,
That's it.
pull that money away. We
That's
have
it.
the option. We have the spending power, right?
You
know, people hate this term, but cancel culture is all about the cancel culture. I done cancel everybody. I won't buy it. I won't listen to it. I won't go there. Like, I'm all about cancel culture, and I know that that's not everybody's thing.
You know what? It's not it's consequences.
Thank you. There you go.
There's a difference, because you're not cancel culturing. You are letting them really live the consequences that are associated with their choices. There's a difference.
100%.
They need us more than we need them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we just need to showcase that as a real thing. It's time out, especially in this term. We are not a minority. We need to stop thinking that we are minorities. We are literally the majority, and honestly, that is what they fear. They realize it is more of us than there are of them, And we are becoming more and more of a united front every day, and that is the most frightening thing ever. Not because, like Torrence and myself, that you 6+ and 2 something, that we control all your money, all of it. And if we all come together and we say, stop buying this, and we all stop doing it, you have absolutely no choice but to stop, listen, and react.
Yeah, it's been difficult to do that, I feel like, because from an accountability standpoint, if we're not their demographic in the first place,
Agreed.
for months, they've been like, for years, for decades, for forever, they're like, well, who cares? Because we don't want them here anyway, so it doesn't matter. And I think at this point, there is a place for a flip in that, where you do now have white patrons that care about what happens to us,
Right.
and care that they're eating not just sustainable food, but also sustainable restaurant culture food.
Exactly.
And, you know what I'm saying? Like eating stuff from a person who's a good person.
That part.
And so I think this is kind of a turning point, but you don't let these people off the hook in any way, shape, or form.
The other thing is, Jack, is just like what you did with BCB, and then we got to do with Tails, and continue to do with Lush Life, and all these education interfaces that's out there where, you know, we don't need another all-Black seminar. But if you're featuring whiskey professionals, where are your Black whiskey professionals on this panel? You know, just like you got to include women and people from the LGBT community.
That's
and
exactly
all that. The dimensions have to like match the audience that you're serving.
Right.
Yeah.
Period. Like, so like, I don't need an all-Black whiskey panel. That's not solving anything. You're more or less condescending or patronizing. Do we need some all-Black panels to address Black culture as it pertains to the industry? Absolutely. But like, don't have a whole bunch of people up here talking about rum and Ian Burrell and yourself and Sly Augustine and all of them are not included, or one of them ain't on there. Like, come on. Like, how much liquid is being moved because of Black folks, and you don't have them on these very panels where you have all these people from all across the world, and you can't find one Black person to be on there. And then again, have more Black people involved in the planning of the programming.
So it sounds like, for what I can pull together, everyone said we get 3 specific benefits from actually acting like Black Lives Matter if you work in hospitality, if you own hospitality business. Number 1, you will get better products because we're the people who invented the products in the first place. You're gonna get better drinks, you're gonna get better cocktails, you're gonna get better food, you're gonna get better service. No one can tell us that we don't do that. We started that in this country. Number 2, you're going to get more money. And who doesn't want more money in a capitalist society?
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, like, capitalism has got major problems. But as long as we are working in this, we want to be compensated for this. And as long as you pay us, you make more money. And here's number 3. And this always comes third, but it counts. You get to be on the right side of history. Because
I'm tired of history repeating itself.
Better products aside and more money aside, like, this is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. We've been here from the beginning. We deserve to own part of what we have started. I kind of feel like that's all the time we got for today. Everyone give a shout and tell folks who you are and where they can find you so they can support you in real life and on social media. AJ?
Gotcha. So I'm out of Washington, D.C. You can come see me at Serenata and Zumo. You can also follow me personally at White Plates, Black Faces. You can catch my cocktail pop-up at Back to Black pop-up. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Aaron?
Thank you again, Jackie. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Mixology21. Mixology, no I. We're also getting ready to launch Urban Bomb Beyond Wines very soon in 2021, so be on the lookout for that. I would love to make sure I get everybody a bottle so they can enjoy it themselves as well. Thank you all again. I enjoyed this immensely.
Torrence?
I am Brother Agave on Instagram. You can find me anywhere between DC and Williamsburg, Brooklyn for now. As things open back up, it's probably going to be Maine to Miami. But yeah, check me out on Instagram. Grab a black bottle of that Mezcal. Enjoy.
Hey, LP?
I am in DC. You can find me at LP Drinks DC or at FO Health.
All right. Thank you all for your energy, for your effort, for your service, for your time, and for everything you contribute to our industry. We out. Much love.
Thank you.